List.io.
Well, hey folks, welcome to Barkwire. This is my wife Ann. She'll be assisting me. Uh, Huff can't make it. Huff's an anesthesiologist and he often gets called to the hospital, but we're lucky to have a special guest with us today who is Bosch Fawstin, one of the bravest men in comic books, possibly the bravest man in comic books. And if you don't know who Bosch is, here's a slight rundown. He's an anti-Islam activist and creator of the anti-jihad superhero Pigman. He describes himself as a radical critic of Islam after having left the religion he was born into. Bosch has put out a number of works which not only emphasize his resistance to the Islamification of the world and in particular the United States, but also his respect for Ayn Rand, one of the foremost thinkers of our time. I have read Atlas Shrugged. It could profitably be condensed by about 40%. But what Ayn Rand has to say about the human condition and capitalism cannot be ignored. Everybody should study what she has to say. She was born in Soviet Russia and lived there for the first couple of decades of her life. So she knew firsthand what a disaster communism is. Bosch has grown up in the United States and is probably most famous for winning the Draw Muhammad contest that took place in Garland, Texas about 10 years ago. And for people who don't know, a couple of jihadis came down there armed to the teeth, determined to kill everybody. Yeah. Unfortunately for them, and fortunately for us, a security guard got to them first and nobody was harmed. So Bosch has posted that drawing of Muhammad repeatedly, and he will probably show it during the program today. And all I have to say is take guts. Now, I've asked Bosch several times, I'm not going to bring these questions up because they could be dangerous to you, but Bosch lives at an undisclosed location. All I know is that it's on Eastern time.
No.
He has recently joined Comicsgate Kings with his character Pigman. And he was honored when Ethan Van Sciver drew Pigman. And now we have this Ethan Van Sciver Pigman trading card,
awesome.
which Bosch is offering with his latest campaign. What is your latest campaign, Bosch?
Well, it was a Pigman #1. It's my first. And it closed about a month or two ago. It's taken a little longer to get it remastered and get it ready because I'm doing another project, but it'll be out soon, as soon as I possibly can. But yeah, it was fun having a first campaign. I never did it before. I always just made my comics and sold them to my email list and people who were out there on social media. But it's a different ball game, which I really appreciate, actually getting it out there and getting into the Comicsgate fan base, and hopefully they like it enough to go to issue 2 and so on.
Well, I have that book. You were kind enough to send it to me years ago, and I've read it. And all I can say is you want to deliver a message. This is how you do it. There's no pussyfooting around.
No.
It's also a powerful antidote to the woke shit that's being churned out by the big two.
I appreciate it, Mike. I appreciate it. Yeah, I stopped at about 3 issues. It'll be about 6 or 7. And when I joined Comicsgate, I said, you know what? I'm going to maybe relaunch Pigman from issue 1 and 2, combine it into one issue, add some stuff into it, add some scenes, and just refine it, make it better than it was, and then go from there. And again, I got this other project. It's a massive one, 350 pages. Now I'm transferring all of my roughs and pencils onto the actual board, and it's the biggest size I've ever worked in. It's 18 by 24, the actual original pages, and ended up being printed 8 by 14. It'll be taller, a nice chunk taller than your average book. There's a reason for that, so that's exciting. I'm doing that.
I love the giant size.
Oh, I love it. I mean, it's the largest I've ever worked in, and it's it's something about it. I gotta say, just holding it in my hands and getting all the work in there. And again, I'm not necessarily like a real detailed guy. I don't pussyfoot around in terms of noodling, but there's something about having it on that bigger size than I normally have. And scanning it will be a pain in the ass, but we'll see. We'll see what I can do. I can get maybe another scanner because the one I have will not cut it. I had to get a new light box actually. It just arrived today, which is good.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Pops, if you're back there, put Bosch's books up on the screen. If you can hear us, there they are.
Oh yeah, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, these are the Laxas. I have 4 or 5 books out of print now, and I have about a dozen left of these two. It's my collections of Muhammad cartoons and also original Muhammad cartoons that I did exclusively for these books, like 30 or 40 of them at least that are new in there. And I also have a Muhammad flip book, which is Pigman and Muhammad, little flip books, which was really fun. But that's
in that flip book, Pigman is chasing Muhammad, right?
Yeah, but he's walking as Muhammad's running because he knows he's going to get to him regardless. Oh. So it's really fun to do that, to do a little crossover with. And again, I look at Muhammad now like a character that it's people are saying, you think you own Muhammad? That's all right. So I put copyright Muhammad, copyright Bosch Fawstin. Of course, it gets some people riled up, but it's fun.
And you have a website.
Oh, yeah, BoschFawstin.com. It's a blog in there. I have a store, and check it out, guys. I would appreciate it. Any support you can give, I would love it. I got prints, and again, I have only those 2 books left. The Islam Bitches is out. The Peaceful Death Threats is out, which really sold well. The Peaceful Death, they're where I collected all the death threats that I have. Not all of them, actually. I got thousands, but there's a few hundred in each one. And what I do is I publish the death threats I got over Muhammad cartoons alongside new Muhammad cartoons. And some of the death threats are, brutal, wanting to do terrible things to me before they do me in and so on. And also, your children and this and that, and they don't know what I have or don't have, but still and again, the most telling thing about that, it wasn't jihadists per se, it was engineers, teachers, pop stars from Pakistan.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it was the average everyday Muslim. And again, whether they're going to act on it or not, it doesn't matter. I know that amongst any group, Muslims will act on it more than others. And that's why when I hear people talk about they're getting death threats, like Tom King was talking about death threats at a convention. It's like, Tom King? Are you kidding me? Because he broke up Batman and Catwoman. It's like, no, the comic fans, they might do that because they want to have fun online, but we know that Muslims will actually act on it. And that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. Whereas the people that promise death threats due to comic book characters are usually obese and live in their parents' basements. Yeah. Well, you must be concerned by the growing Islamification of the United States, the way these people were deliberately brought in here by a previous president.
Yeah, they were.
To replace Americans. And the vast majority of them are not registered to vote. In fact, many of them are not here legally, as we just found out in Dearborn, Michigan, where it turns out that the Somalian community has been stealing hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yes, they have.
To send back to Somalia to fund a terrorist group, which is seeking to wipe out everybody else, essentially. But they're starting with Christians, and you post the jihad report every week on X.
Yeah, hundreds murdered every week. And it was actually 2 or 3 weeks ago, 2,050 in 1 week alone globally. 2,000, that's the biggest I've seen in a while. And it happens to be that sometimes when there's a weak president, a U.S. president, the jihad numbers go up, but they're going up regardless if there's a stronger president in the U.S. That's a little scary because that wasn't the case. Under Obama, it was like 20,000 human beings in his last year. And then by Trump's 4th year, it was only 10. Still too many, but that's a big difference. 10,000 less. So, yeah.
Well, it's working. We wonder how long that's going to last because they say that the Democrats are going to sweep the midterms.
I don't know about that. I mean, look, I think the Republicans are giving them an opening because they were on their heels, the left. They were. And now here comes Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and all these characters who, to me, they've gone left. It's like the idea that they're still right. Right in what capacity? He's defending communists. Muslims are cheering him on. He says Sharia law is not that bad. How is that right? That's not right. That's not right at all. And her, I can join forces with the left. And then you got, Fuentes, I want to join forces with the left. It's like they're leftists. These are really, but they've gained their audience from some of the right, so they've tried to retain that. They don't want to alienate all of them. But once you go left, you're not on the right anymore. That's why this woke right thing, it's a joke. I think it's, James Lindsay, I like some stuff he says and does, but I think he's a liberal, a little left leaning, right?
Are you talking about Tucker?
No, I'm talking about James Lindsay, the intellectual who coined. I think him and Konstantin Kisner were both leftist, right? And they had one infraction and they were kicked out from the left. So now they're relegated to the right. I think they resent it. So I think that's why they're still taking a shot at the right by saying woke right. They're making sure that they make that line. But they're leftists. If you go, again, if you're pro-Islam, if you're defending communists, if you're like Nick Fuentes and says, I'm a big fan of Stalin, how's that on the right? It's not. It's a mess. So in that sense, the perception is that the right's gone crazy, but it's only a handful of these rats.
It is.
Who are doing their thing.
A tiny proportion.
It is, but they're making it seem like it's a big thing. And unfortunately, Vance didn't have a proper response, I think, to some of this stuff. I don't think it's good going after a journalist, calling her a scumbag because she called out the possibility that Tucker Carlson's son might be influencing him in a bad way. We don't know that, but she asked a question. To him, that was a scumbag question. It's like, what the hell are you talking about? We can ask you a question. You're the goddamn VP. You work for us. You should be able to answer it. But we'll see. I don't know. I just don't think that they're going to sweep. I think that it'll be a tight thing, and hopefully people don't fall for these leftists in right-wing garb like Carlson and Owens and Fuentes and all these rats.
One always asks, what do the Republicans stand for? And I've been asking that question for decades, and as near as I can figure it out, they really don't stand for anything except getting a nice salary and enjoying special perks. They're not evil like the left is.
Exactly. But that's about it.
That's about it.
And when I vote for them, I'm not voting for them as much as I'm voting against the evil scumbag left. It's always been the case. Trump, I think at this point, he seems like he's coasting. I think he's happy to be alive. He got shot at, and I think he's just an older guy. He'd be like, you know what, I'll have some fun here. He'll have the Saudi king on there and kiss his ass. He'll have Mamdani on there. And then he'll say that the Muslim Brotherhood will be designated as a terrorist group. It's like, that's good, but they're involved with the Muslim Brotherhood. All these characters are Qatar that you're friendly with are involved with the Muslim Brotherhood. They're involved with Hamas, and then you got CARE, who's part of the Muslim Brotherhood and Hamas. It's like, it's a real mess. There's no moral core. I think Trump is a patriot. I think he loves the country. I don't think he wants to see it hurt, but I don't think he's a moral person to the point where he can see good and evil and identify it, and also not have to have these guys in the White House. People say, well, he has to have them there. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to have Mamdani in the White House. Why? It doesn't have to have him.
I'm going to hold off on that. Some people are suggesting he's playing three-dimensional chess, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
But what's remarkable about our times is the unholy alliance between the far-left Democrats
and Muslims.
It's just, and the only reason that they are aligned is because the enemy of my enemy is my friend.
100%.
And they both hate the Constitution. And this is a question that never gets asked of any elected official. Miss Ocasio-Cortez, have you read the Constitution? No one ever asks. Remarkably uncurious. And Absolutely. It's obvious that most of these people never have. Never have,
and also vilify it till no end. I mean, they want to blow it out of existence. They really do. And they got these, again, you got this, the attempt to Islamize and communize Texas. It's like you got two enemies within, and they're like, that's the most American of any state right now, so we're going to try to do it. And there are more mosques in Texas now than there have been. I mean, there are more mosques post 9/11 than there were pre 9/11. How and why? It should have been stopped cold. And it should have been stopped cold because, again, it's an enemy ideology. It doesn't matter that not all Muslims. So what? The most devout ones are dangerous. That's the problem. I don't care about the passive ones.
Yeah.
When people bring them up, I'm like, they're irrelevant. But the problem I have with them is that they're not just irrelevant, but they cheerlead Hamas. The average everyday Muslim. That's a real problem. And that was a big tell. I think that was where they outed themselves in a way that they weren't prepared to, but they couldn't resist it. They have to support Hamas against Israel. And that should have been a big red light for people. Like, whoa. I mean, these average Muslims are supporting the terrorist group. How and why? And that's why they have to vilify Israel to the extent that they do, to try to make Hamas look like a reasonable response to.
There are so many moving pieces here. One we have to touch on is that most people have their hands full doing their jobs, taking care of their family, and kicking back on weekends. But there's a certain class of person, whom we will refer to as Democrats, for lack of a better term, who spend every waking second scheming how to get power over others.
Absolutely.
I'm not talking about the regular voters. I'm talking about elected members of Congress and the people that they appoint. And there's an old saying that says that any organization that is not specifically and rigidly conservative
goes left.
will go left over time. And it's true. It's happened to organization after organization. And I think that the reason is that the left appears to the worst elements in human nature, which is greed, envy, and malice.
Yeah.
And they don't study history, so they have no clue why the United States is the most successful nation in history, why we are so wealthy, why people are risking their lives in shark-infested waters to come here in tiny boats.
Yeah.
Because they don't study history, they don't have no knowledge of the Constitution, and they don't understand the basis of a republic.
No.
Now, every successful republic eventually falls. And this is what's happening to the United States now. I hope that we can reverse it because a lot of people are aware of it. However,
if there's one country that can, I think we can. I think if there's one country in history that because we are an anomaly across history.
True. That's true. We are the anomaly.
We really are.
And I think one of the most important parts of our Constitution is the Declaration of Independence, which states that our rights do not come from government. They come from God. Our rights are inherent and unalienable. And that's the basis of our freedom. And a lot of people can't stand that because they have substituted government for God.
Yeah.
We're in a huge Christian revival right now, thanks in part to Charlie Kirk's assassination. Since he was killed, there are 10 times as many Turning Point organizations on campus than when he was alive.
Absolutely.
Colleges are fighting them right and left. Colleges hate them. The faculty and administrations of colleges are 99% Democrat. They are funded by Qatar. They're funded by Saudi Arabia, who floods their campuses with Muslims. And that's why hardly a week goes by that you don't see these massive pro-Palestinian demonstrations.
Yep, and that are unnatural, that are funded by, as I say, as you said, our enemies. And there's something that has to be discussed to the point where they're targeting now right-wingers. I don't know if you know, there was at least 300 that Qatar tried to get in on, and they got them. They got some of them. You know that there's Qatar money going to Tucker and all these others. Now, Tucker also, his own company, he calls it his own network. He's like, what network? He's on X and he's on YouTube. I don't know what network he has, but whatever. He was funded by this one Muslim, Omid Malik, I believe his name is. He's a Pakistani. He's a lifelong Democrat. Of course, he would fund Tucker Carlson. And when did Tucker Carlson stop talking completely and no criticism against Islam? Ever since he left Fox.
I know.
He has said nothing against Islam. Even before, it was a little tepid, when he did discuss it. But now it's zero. It's actually praising Islam. He's going to Qatar regularly. He's going to the UAE. He's going to Saudi Arabia. And it was pretty obscene seeing him and Piers Morgan sitting there. They're twins. They're basically media whores for the last 30 years, both of them. They go left, right, any which way. He used to work for PBS, Tucker, PBS, MSNBC, I guess from that to CNN and then to the Fox, where he became a little more right wing because of the writers. I think the producers were there a little more right wing, so therefore he becomes a little more right wing. That's about it. Because as soon as he left Fox, where's he gone? Far left. He goes to Russia, and praises their city and says, this is better than any city in America about Moscow. I mean, it's just.
I have to point out that the term right wing is problematic because when you have a circle and at the far left at 9 o'clock is communism, and you go all the way around the circle through National Socialism, and the far right is at 9 p.m. too, and that's communism as well. What we're talking about are constitutional conservatives, which are right in the middle of that circle, because they're not ready to kill for their cause. They'll kill if attacked, but conservatism is not right wing.
I mean, politically speaking, no, but but they're for individual rights, they're for freedom, they're for against obstruction, against coercion, and that to me, there was a political map that someone created for the Objective Standard, which is an Ayn Rand linked institution. That if you look at it, leftism, all the map on the left is all tyranny, whether it's religious or secular.
That's true.
And then the middle, it gets a little mixed up, a little positive, a little checks and balances, a little controls. And then the right, it's not anarchy, it's not chaos, it is absolute freedom. Meaning, you have government. Government is a necessary good. We do need it. I don't think anarchism is actually good. I mean, because what it comes down to, if there's no rules, if there's no laws, if there's no protections, it becomes may the best, most savage, people win, really, in that scenario. That's why the guy like Michael Malice fancies himself anarchist, right? Why did he move from New York to Texas? I mean, why? Because he has a little more order there, less anarchy, less, walk in the streets with a swivel on your head. So I just think that also not, Nazism, National Socialism, right? The biggest difference between them was, to me, Stalin and Hitler, was that his mustache was a little longer. Stalin, but to me, it's the same shit. It's like, that's my Tucker Carlson cartoon. To me, it's the same thing. It's like they were allies, right? They said, oh, they hate each other. Yeah, like the Sunnis and Shiites hate each other, but they're the same thing.
That's right. That's why they hated each other.
That's why, because they were brothers. They were collectivists. They were totalitarians, and they both hated Jews, Stalin and Hitler. This idea that it's only Hitler, no, Stalin hated Jews as well. And he also killed them. So it's just to me, it's the same. It's evil is on the left, whether it's religious or secular, and that's where the bulk of the evil. That's where totalitarianism is. That's where anti-freedom is. That's where the individual doesn't mean anything. And the middle, again, it's all mixed. It's all corrupt. It's good and bad. And that's where we are in a lot of ways. We're a mixed economy. Right. We're a mixed culture. And then the right, the real right, the political right that I think is individual rights, no coercion, a small government that will absolutely, at least that's the ideal, will protect us, if we need it. But that's about it. It's very simple. We have a military. We have the courts. We have, judges and lawyers. And that's about it. And politicians are representatives. My God, it's just tough to even say that they represent us. They don't. But that's the way I see it. To me, they're all collectivists. They're all anti-freedom. They're all anti-individual, whether it's Muslims, communists, National Socialists, the fascists, right? It's right-wing. It's not right-wing. Fascism, I said they were all socialists before. They just want their own spin on it. They want their own label. It's like my form of this totalitarianism is called fascism. My form is called National Socialism. My form is called communism, and so on. But in the end, there's no fundamental difference, between them. They're all anti-individual, anti-freedom collectivists. So that's
true.
And that's why Tucker Carlson could be praising the communist guy. That's why Fuentes will be praising Stalin and Hitler. That's why, Candace Owens wants to get in bed with leftists. She goes, the left is not my enemy. It's like, really? Okay. That's news to us. The woman who worked at Daily Wire and worked with Dennis Prager and all this. So these are corrupt people using, I think, what's left of their reputation to try to really hurt the right. I think that's part of their problem. That's part of their motive as well. I believe it. They're trying to cause chaos. And it's working to some extent, but I don't think Tucker Carlson has the juice that he once had. I think once Trump called him a kook, once he went to Qatar, once he went to Saudi Arabia, it's like, okay, I think people are starting to see him for the mess he is.
it's unfortunate that I'm not talking colleges. I'm talking high school. High school used to teach history, and part of the history they taught was United States history and where we came from. But that's all been flushed away now. One of the reasons you and I both know this is that over a half century ago, leftists targeted education, the media, entertainment, and government, and infiltrated those deliberately to destroy the republic.
Absolutely.
Now, a lot of people aren't familiar with the Constitution, even among our peers. Well, I found this comic book. Pop, show that comic book, would you? It's up on the screen, and it contains the complete text of the Constitution, and I recommend it. Let's see, are we there, Pops? Let's see.
Is it a recent release or something that was
It's
out
new.
there? Okay. Do you know who published it? Do you know who's behind it?
I can run out and pick up my copy, which is out in the hall. But no, I think I can find it. Let me just look this up.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a new company. It's doing all sorts of groundbreaking work, including an illustrated Bible that contains every word that's in the original, which is unusual. U.S. Constitution, Kingstone Comics.
Okay.
Kingstone Comics is doing it.
I drew a visual Quran a number of years ago for a Danish publisher. I think I may have seen this. Have you posted about this?
Yes.
Okay, then that's where I saw it.
It's well worth the money. It contains every word. That's the most important thing. Every
and
word.
It's in a comic book, like meaning it has the words, but it has also the founders and all.
Yes, it does. It's a graphic novel. It's got illustrations that shows the founding fathers debating the issues. It shows examples of what they're talking about, and there's a narrator who walks you through it. And it's just a painless way for people to learn the Constitution, which I recommend. But they have a new book out on Booker T. Washington.
Oh wow, yeah, he was
great. Frederick Douglass. They have a whole bunch of new books out that explain history and in a way that's easy to absorb. All I can go is by this one book, but I read the whole thing and it's just straight. I mean, there's no angle there. They're not trying to portray it as something it's not. They're portraying it as something as it is, which is the foundation for the greatest nation that ever lived.
It's absolutely true. I mean, we are, as we just said, we are the anomaly in history. Nothing been like us before. Nothing has been since. And no country has even attempted to adopt it, which is crazy to me. Why not try to adopt our Constitution and see how that works?
Well, you know why? It's because it doesn't empower the people in charge to, number one, steal millions and millions of dollars so they can purchase fourth and fifth mansions. And really, that's the driving force among most elected.
It's sickening but true. They are just whores for a buck. I mean, they really are. It's sickening. And I mean, they're supposed to represent us, and they have the honor of working in this great country and supposed to represent America and this incredible heritage that we have. But no, it's about cash. Even this, MTG is supposed to be this hero. Hero for what? She came in there worth $700,000. Now she's worth 21 million, 22 million within a few years, a handful of years. And now is a hero for what? For trashing Trump? Yeah. Massey also, same thing. He's a real patriot. No, he's not. No, he's not. He's a compromise guy, and who knows what kind of farm money he makes.
Well, there's another problem with these elected officials, and that's a character flaw. That they have howling voids in their own souls, but rather than look inside and address the problems within themselves, they turn it outward and they embrace these causes as a form of validation.
Yeah.
And I think we see that over and over again as they
on the left and the right. They're not bound by their corruption. It doesn't matter. They come into the left or right, and the Republicans or Democrats, and they're as corrupt. The only thing is you have a better chance of having a decent few representatives in the Republican Party as opposed to all evil on the left. And then it's like they say something about, well, there are Democrats in the Republican Party. Yeah, there are. But there are communists in the Democrat Party.
Well, Bosch, I always say it's a matter of degree. To what degree does one party lie, cheat,
Yeah.
steal, and kill? To
Yeah.
what degree does the other? I don't think it's a fair comparison.
No, it's not. And that's why, again, I always vote for the person who will do less damage to America. It's not a point about who will, uphold. We're past that point, at least now. Say, oh, who's going to hurt us less? And that's the one I vote for always. And it happens to be almost always the Republicans. But then you got guys like, I couldn't even pull the trigger, I think, for McCain. I couldn't stand him. I don't care about his history. I couldn't do it. And it's enough to vote against Obama. I understand, but that guy was so bad. And if you remember, he actually kept Obamacare alive. Remember that final little, vote against Trump, and that's a vicious, nasty guy. Whatever he went through, and I said he went from POW to POS. I made a little cartoon about it. Whatever value he had at one point, it was a long gone. And then you got Romney, and that's why Trump was inevitable. You had to get an outsider who is not
absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and again, flaws and all, overall, better than any of those. Even the Republicans who came before, the closest thing was Reagan, and he had his own flaws, but still, he was overall a patriot, and he mocked government the way Trump does. I don't think any other politician on the right has done that since Reagan, and between Reagan and Trump, I don't think Bush ever mocked government. I don't think he did. Do you remember? Because I don't. It's a healthy disdain that Americans have for government.
That's right.
That Trump shares, that Reagan shared, that the founders shared. And if we don't have that, it's like, again, it's a kind of it's a statism that I think has gone left to right. And that's why the guy Kevin McCarthy said something. Well, we do it slower. I was like, so it's basically what I call it. It was a cartoon I did. Let me see it for 1 second. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
It's worth posting. I don't know if I could put it in here and you could show it, but it's
do you have a little camera at the bottom of your screen?
You know what? I'll just check out my store. I have it on. It's supposed to call Slowcialism. Slowcialism.
All right, let me see if I can find that.
Yeah. It's on my I will pull it up here.
Oh, wait. Here we have the Ethan's Pigman.
Yeah, yep.
Go down there.
It's low. It's in the middle of the thing. Let's see. It's Kevin McCarthy who literally said, because I made the pun Slowcialism years ago when I started seeing Republicans talking, in a kind of communistic. So it's called Slowcialism, and it is Kevin McCarthy. He goes, "We let government grow, but at a slower rate." And I was like, wow. And he's a California Republican, meaning a pinko, So I coined it Slowcialism. It's just a little slower than the left. That's all. And again, there's no real difference because they're the right, quote unquote. The conservatives have gone left, and the Republican Party has gone left. Bush, right after we got this assaulted by the jihad, Islam is peace. It's like that's a terrible thing because it crippled a war effort. To the point where it allowed people to say, okay, so it's just a small minority of extremists. No, it's the true believers.
Here we are.
Okay, cool. Thanks, man. Yeah, it's just called Slowcialism, and it works, where it's a good way of distilling that entire thing. It's a funny pun, but it works. I appreciate it. Mike, thanks, man. Yeah. So he said, we let government grow, but at a slower rate. And that should have been alarm bells. It's like, whoa. What do we got here? There's a Speaker of the House saying this, and he was Speaker at the time. And so I said, all right, I'm going to make a pink, cartoon here, him in all pink, and quote him on that. And I said, as I put it here, I said, Pinko, Californian Republican, Speaker of the House, Kevin McCarthy, May 29th, 2025. We let government grow, but at a slow rate. It's shocking. And then you got other guys like Gates, who was against McCarthy, which is fine. And I was like, all right, cool. And he was going to be maybe the AG, right? But he's turned into an entire mess. And he left Congress, and now he's out there trashing Israel every chance he gets. It's like, what the hell is going on here? I mean, what is going on here? And and then you got what's the name? Steve Bannon going out there, and just saying everything he's a populist, right? whatever he thinks is now popular is funny to me. It's not that they actually go what is popular, what is true. They go after what they want to be popular. You know.
Yeah, the widest audience possible. That's what populism is.
Make it, so that's what populism is. You know, it's just it's a joke to me, and it's not a political position really. I mean, how can it be if communism is popular? What he'll go communist? He actually said that FDR was one of his, if not his favorite president. It's like, you're a right winger, conservative, Republican, you FDR. What the hell are you talking about? And then he praises this one Russian guy, a writer. And then he says, you know, I'm not Islamophobe after October 7th. It's like, first of all, it doesn't exist. What does that even mean? And what's the point of saying that? What do you mean by that? You know, you just, and again, this idea that after an atrocity like that, October 7th, right? The problem in the world is the victims who were, that's the problem. Jews are the problem after that atrocity, according to Tucker Carlson, according to Fuentes, according to Candace Owens. And that sharp turn, if you remember, though, it was so sharp, it was almost like a whiplash, the way they went from, you know, being pro-Israel until and completely. And what day did they choose? On October 7th. And that's why it's like, you know, I will argue with people on my side. I will argue with people on my, who even follow me about it. And it doesn't have to be that, you know, I can criticize Israel and say, look, I think Netanyahu should have obliterated Hamas far sooner than within the 2 years that he had. And he could have, and he had all the power. To hell with the world. It's like, yeah, world, no matter what we do, it doesn't matter. That's my problem with Israel, that they didn't take care of business to that level. Outside of that, you know, this genocide in Gaza, it's like, you got people who deny the Holocaust who call this a genocide.
I know.
You know what I mean? So that's
it's so evil.
It really, really is. And they deny the Holocaust, they threaten a new Holocaust, and they call something that's not a Holocaust a Holocaust. And then you have that kind of mentality seep into pop culture or into mainstream culture, like a Joe Rogan. Yeah, it's a Holocaust, it's a genocide. And you got that idiot, what's his name? I don't know, another comedian puffing away on his, you know, marijuana. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's like, okay. I can take this seriously, this guy. But yeah, so that's, you know, people say something about my work. It's too political. I said, no, because it's seen as right wing. It's conservative. You know, it's seen as conservative, whatnot. Even though it's more, you know, it's, to me, it's pro-American, anti-collectivism. That's my work, the main of it. And even with this new book I'm working on, this adaptation, it's against collectivism. It's pro-individualism, against collectivism, against socialism.
Bosch, you should consider doing a graphic novel of Atlas Shrugged, but make it 48 pages.
Let me just reveal this. I was working on an adaptation of Atlas Shrugged years ago, and I got up to 500 pages. It was that's what it would be, 500 pages, half of the thing. I drew 188 pages, and it collapsed for a number of reasons. But let me just say that since then, I've been in contact with a group who wants me to adapt to Fountainhead. That's what I'm working on for a few years. And if this goes well, maybe that can go. Maybe I can take what I did, do a little more cutting. Because again, it's like, to me, the more the better for me. When I read Atlas Shrugged, I don't want it to end. And when I read Fountainhead, I don't. I reread it dozens of times. I mean, you know, for the last 20 years at least, if not 30.
Well, John Galt's speech could be constructively lessened a little, don't you think?
Let me say this. If it's the end of the world and he's telling why it's the end of the world, I think it's worth a few hours. I think it's worth to be as long as a Joe Rogan podcast. What do you think?
Yeah, well, see, I have a hard time watching 3 hours of anything. I've been watching Once Upon a Time in America for 2 months now.
That's right.
Yeah, I'm still working on James Michener's.
See, I love these big tomes. I love them. Again, I had to reread The Fountainhead a number of times before, and I read that maybe 20 times. You know,
Holy
and
shit.
I have no problem. It's like, to me, I'm a voracious reader, but there's not much to read, and that I'm going to be like, I can't wait to read. So what I do is I reread a lot of books. Yeah, I reread a lot of books, and again, I guess I go through stories, and the fiction books, they don't jump out at me. Not from the title, not from the cover, not from the premise. It's very difficult for me to get into new ones. I will find it eventually if I keep looking. But man, it's tough. Even going into comic shops, I can go in there, right? Every so often, every few months, I go in there and I sometimes get a gem. Like, okay, man,
Bosch, I have a book for you that I co-wrote with Blaine Pardo. Do you know who Blaine Pardo
no,
is? Well, Blaine is a conservative writer, a crime writer. He did the Blue Dawn series, in which communists take over the United States, and he just published the sixth and last novel. But we're writing a series called Tenure, and the tagline is "Cancel culture is canceled." The latest one out now is Tenure number 3. It's about Peanut the squirrel.
yes, I remember
And
that.
people
That
are
was
loving it.
actually a shocking story. I mean, shocking. Yeah, it's a they try to the cute aspect, but they just came into the guy's home and took these animals and killed them. And
Out
on
of
what ground?
malice, too. They also questioned these
Absolute
people for
malice.
6 hours
Yes, they
because
did.
he had a talk show. And the only reason they had this reaction was that a blue hair in Minneapolis became aware of the show and said,
I
"Oh,
complained about
this guy is a conservative.
it,
I
and
have
that's
to
the
do
problem.
everything I can to destroy him."
And that's the problem with also when even when they make these like complaints, right? Let's say on YouTube for people's channels, it's like anyone can make complaints, but that one person is gonna destroy this entire network, this entire thing. No, they shouldn't be able to. These companies should, but if they agree with them, it's like this. Someone said something about someone asked a question. Tell me a movie where the villain won. I said, well, it's not a movie, but Muhammad and the Islamic world. That's where the bad guy won, And of course, people saying, you're bringing politics in there. I said, you wouldn't mind if you agree with it. You just don't agree with this. That's why you mind it, It's like, this idea that I'm a political cartoonist and leftists aren't, that's a joke to me. I mean, that's a joke. That's all they do.
I know.
Yeah, I'm just a little more explicit about it. Where
Well,
they're
the
trying to
problem
be,
with the left is that they have no point of reference outside themselves.
no,
Most of them have been living in university campuses their entire lives. They never hear anything but
they
straight
don't.
communist propaganda.
They have protected themselves from reality in a lot of
Yeah,
ways. They really have like a force field. And when they see something like, oh my God, and that's why they can go out there with no shame and celebrate the murder of a 31-year-old man, father, husband of this, Charlie Kirk. And they can go there with no shame and celebrate it.
yep.
And you look at this with absolute utter shock. And if you're not, I question your humanity. Say, this guy was a decent guy. I mean, he was better than all of his so-called friends who've come out now.
Right.
Tucker Carlson, he would never platform Fuentes, Kirk, never, and never did. And within 2 months, his good friend Tucker platforms him,
Yep.
and not just interviewed him. He says, "I interviewed him." No, you didn't. No, you publicized him. That's what you did. And even when he had an opportunity to criticize him for saying that he's a big fan of Stalin, you said, "Oh, you are. Let's take care of that later." He never did. That was the point of the whole conversation. Wait a minute, you're a right-wing conservative, allegedly, right? And you're a fan of a communist dictator who killed millions of human beings, millions. Why are you a fan of his? Explain that, punk. You know what I mean? But he wouldn't do that. No, he wouldn't do that. He just thought that was like an aside. No, that's a fundamental, point about this guy. And again, he's all over the place. He'll say he's worried about the Palestinians, and he'll say to hell with the Palestinians within one episode. So, he's not a force for good. And unlike Charlie Kirk, who basically put down his thoughts in book form, in articles, in his speeches, right? He basically cornered himself, saying, this is what I believe, this is what I think. Fuentes has never written articles, never written books. He doesn't want to be cornered. He doesn't want to put his name on it. Just wants to talk as much shit as he can and get away with making as many chats, I guess the super chats, whatever he does on Rumble. And this idea that he has a massive audience, I don't buy it at all. At all. They say, I think Crowder wants to have him on. I was like, why? Crowder, his rule is that if you call for the death of others, I won't have you on. It's like, well, Fuentes has. He called for the death of Jews. So why would you have him on? You don't have the other guy. What's his name? The communist Muslim Hassan Piker. He doesn't have him on because he calls for death of others. So it's like, yeah, but what's the difference fundamentally between Fuentes and Piker? Nothing. Fundamentally, nothing. They both hate Jews.
Well, I think that Piker is dyed in the wool. and honestly believes everything he says. Whereas I think Fuentes is just in it for the.
I think there's something to that. Yeah, I think he throws anything out there. He's a shit talker. That's his main thing. So this is the book. Okay.
This is the book. It's about a history professor at a university in Portland, where else,
Of
who
course.
declines to use a student's preferred pronoun and how it destroys his life. First of all, they fire him. Then Antifa attacks his family. They run his wife off the road. She dies in a fiery crash. They send a SWAT squad to his home, and the police kill his daughter. And finally, Braxton says, "Well, I got nothing to lose." And he starts going after everybody who contributed to his downfall. And that's the theme of the first book. This is the third book in which he finds his mission. He and a little group of his, they find their mission in canceling the cancel pigs, in going after the people who sit in the security of their own homes and use the internet to destroy other people's lives.
Yeah.
And in this case, they go after the people that destroyed the owner of Peanut the Squirrel. Only we don't use Peanut the Squirrel. We have Sheffield the Fox, but it's the same thing. And when you look into these laws, for some reason, it's illegal to own a fox or a squirrel as a domestic pet. Never mind that all of us have seen videos of people on Facebook playing with their pet foxes and squirrels that look perfectly harmless and indeed joyful.
Yeah.
In New York, also, they are required to test for rabies. Never mind that Peanut the Squirrel or Sheffield the Fox lived with their owner in perfect harmony for 5 years and never left the house. And the only way you can test for rabies is to kill the animal and then test the blood. It makes no sense to me. Well, now that family is suing the New York State Police and the Department of Wildlife for $10 million.
I hope they win, man.
Yes, I believe that they will win.
I believe so too. I mean, that's the thing. These people, they commit these crimes, and this was a crime. This was a crime against freedom and this guy's property. And those were his animals. He did take care of them. It was part of his life. And you're right. The malice factor, that can't be understated.
No, that's what drives so many on the left. It's just sheer hatred that they've been taught. That's why they show up screaming all the time and attack anybody who's pro-life.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to go out there and demonstrate for pro-life. That's a personal decision I think every person has to make for themselves.
Me too. I believe that as well.
You win that battle by hearts and minds, one by one. You don't win it legislatively. Although legislators are free to outlaw abortion if they can muster the votes, I wouldn't vote for it. But nevertheless, you have to respect other people's way of life.
Yeah. I believe that's a true freedom, and that's why it's like I don't get into that game either of this whole thing of trying to illegalize it. These are individuals, and again, it's this idea also. Sometimes the right says they just get an abortion and they get a smoothie. It's like no. I know that some leftists try to brag that they got an abortion, but it's an emotional, devastating thing. So some of these people, and some of them also miscarriages, right? That's a terrible thing. I mean,
it is.
It really is, and it happens, and it's like it's a heartbreaking thing because it's a what if. It was a living thing for a little while and then stopped, and it's heart-wrenching because it's on its way towards being a living, breathing human being. So that's why it's like it's a very complex issue, far more complex than we get these talking heads talking about it, whether left or right. It's an individual issue, and it's a choice that people have to have, should have, and that's why the guy Kevin Williamson, who wrote for National Review, said we need to execute women who have abortions. It's like, and that I had to fight back on that hard, and I got pushback like you can't believe, Mike. I got hardcore pushback against me for condemning him. I said, "You guys are for that?" I said, "That guy's out of his mind." Execution of women who get abortions. I said, "Look, you might disagree with that. You might say, well, you shouldn't be doing that. Especially late-term abortions, which are, I got to say, it's immoral. There's a certain point where, come on. You have to have that decision, but they still have that right legally. And then you have this other thing. I don't know if you heard about this, pregnancy abortions in California.
Oh yeah, post-pregnancy abortion. Is that murder?
That's murder at that point. It's murder.
Yeah.
To me, that's murder. Whether a woman, gets a fetus and decides not to, to me, I'd argue against that. But that's murder at that point. It's an independent being outside the womb. So yeah, there's the malice factor. and again, you know, within comics, right? I think Ethan was saying something in terms of mocking those who got their morality from comics. Mike, I got to say for myself, I was raised Muslim in a passive way, but the Jew hatred was hardcore, the misogyny was hardcore, the contempt for America and appreciation of it was, you know, mixed.
Was that here in this country?
Yeah, I was born and raised in this country by Albanian Muslim parents, hating Jews, cousins of mine loving Hitler, to the point where me and my brother were blondish, right? And he goes, Hitler would have loved you guys. We're at the mosque. We're like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And his thinking was our look, you know, and he loved Hitler. He was a Muslim, you know, and he loved Hitler because he killed Jews. My point is this, that comics for me were a lifesaver. They really were. Reading Peter Parker, his adventures, and the natural goodness of Peter Parker. He was not affiliated with anything more, you know, any religion, but he was just a good kid. That did wonders for me. Matt Murdock, you know, all these characters, Bruce Wayne, Clark Kent. I learned, I got to say, that that's where I got into heroism. That's when I got into good versus evil. And then from that to Ayn Rand's philosophy, and her characters are her heroes. So I don't discount the idea that I did get a lot of that. I think that spark of goodness, of something other than Islam, from comics ever since I was a kid. So you know, it was a major thing. And that's why, you know, having real evil people living, breathing in my comics, I think is also, it's effective, because again, we can go metaphor all we want, but after 9/11, I was like, I got to take these guys on directly. This is too much. And they're worse than any villain that we've seen in comics. These guys butcher children. They do heinous things to the point where we don't have villains in comics doing this stuff. These guys did it in real life. They fly planes into buildings, you know, screaming Allahu Akbar, thinking they're flying into paradise. As much an act of war as it was an act of faith. And we have to recognize that. And I really thought post 9/11 that I would have my competition cut out for me, that there'll be wild boar man against pig man, you know, in the marketplace. Like, people are trying to, nothing, Mike, nothing. The thing that came closest was Frank Miller's comic. And, you know, you pointed out the Punisher fighting, you know, within a Marvel comic. It's pretty wild to me. Punisher fighting jihadists, you know. You had the Joker becoming, what was he, ambassador for Iran in the 80s? Remember that? which was hilarious. Jim Starlin, I think, wrote that. I think Jim Starlin wrote that. But yeah, post 9/11, I figured there would be a number of individuals who loved the concept of heroism and good and evil, and taking on these guys and putting them into comics. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And if it did happen, it was half-assed. It was Captain America facing some kind of Al-Qaeda villains and apologizing to them for what we did. You know, it's like, that's not Captain America at all. Not the way I see him. He's a patriot, you know, and he's not representative of the American government. He's a representative of the American dream. That's what he is. That's why he transcends this right-left type, you know, type thing in America. He's American, and I actually appreciate the way they portrayed him in the Avengers movies and in the Captain America movies. You got a guy, a leftist like Chris Evans, who plays him straight. There was nothing in there that you saw, oh, he's winking at the audience. No, he played it straight, and I did appreciate that big time. So there's still some good, you know, stuff out there in terms of pop culture and these adaptations, but we'll see. You know, we'll see where it's heading.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here.
Sure did.
And
thanks for having me. Appreciate it. As always, Mike.
All right. Let me see if I can raise our administrator here, the guy that's in charge. Pops. It's time for the outro.
Little president in his sandbox play, build a tower, make it stay. Digging deep through the golden sand, building the future with your hands. Tiny suits and shiny shoes, making plans and making news. Friends all gather to join along, in the sandbox they all belong. Little president from that play, every day a brand new day. learning, growing your own way in the great big sandbox that is the USA. USA. Share your dreams with everyone. Sandbox fun under the sun. Big ideas taking flight. With little Trump, everything's bright. Dig a moat, build a wall. In the sandbox, he stands so tall. Dreamer dream, builder build. Little Trump, your heart's fulfilled. Little President Trump at play. Every day a brand new day. Learning, growing your own way in the great big sandbox that is the USA. Hooray, hooray for the USA.
I'll tell you, I'm at Steel City Comic-Con. You're watching me at Madness Comic Network. What a crowd. Love it.
Ozzy, what are you doing? Come and have a look at this lovely book that was sent over.
You're wrapping in the burning.
Oh, go on and spit the bat out your mouth. No one can understand you like that.
Very nice. Say how 5 dentists and all.
Oh, well, that's not much better. Ozzy, why don't you sing to me? I can always understand you when you sing to me.
Oh, fucking my brains. What is this my publisher sent me? Inked in black with art so sweet.
So what do you think? Do you like it?
Oh, Lord, yeah.
If you missed the live viewing of any Madness Entertainment Group production, you can find all our content on Roku or as a member of this channel. We'll see you next time on the Madness Entertainment.